Good afternoon, everyone. This is Naishat Gadani coming to you from Melbourne. And today is our 136th episode where we talk about how to find a job, how to find a job in Australia, or how to land a job if you have lost a job in COVID-19 times. Please drop in your questions as we tackle the most difficult, the most curvy, and the silliest question around job search, resume, interviews, LinkedIn, career change, and everything under the sun. And yes, so yesterday we took a well-earned rest, and I did take out my dog for a walk. I'm not sure whether KB took a kayak out in in around where she lives. It was pretty windy. I'm pretty sure she did not. Otherwise, she would have been on the other side of the coast. But she's here, so welcome, Caroline. To the 136th episode.
It's a lot of episodes, Nash. It's a lot of episodes. So yes, thank you for welcoming me. I'm here every day, but I feel very welcome. Yes, and the weather today dropped down to 11 degrees in Melbourne, so we're in for some more wintry weather as we go through spring, which is very Melbourne-like. So if you've got any questions around anything, resumes, LinkedIn profiles, reference checks, networking, job networking, how to get a job if you're new to Australia, video interviews, anything at all, please do pop them in the comments and questions. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do join us and put questions there. We'd love to hear from you. And we are uploading videos regularly, so if you like what you see, please do subscribe. I thought I'd just sneak that one in before I actually forget with anything. So yeah, looking forward to having a chat. And Imtiaz has popped up. Hi, how are you doing? Hope you're doing awesome. Yes, we are. I think, aren't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Nancy.
absolutely, super, over the moon, Imtiaz. I'll probably start with few couple of things. One of the, not a client, but one of the person that I knew, he was looking for work for a long time. He landed up a role in IT probably a month back. So we just got on a call because I was curious to know how did he really end up finding that role. And he said that he approached his friend who used to work in IT consulting kind of an environment, and he was giving him suggestions around what the business can do and how the business can do more efficiently and in his domain of expertise. And he did that for a few times, and the founder found it quite interesting. The founder invited him for, he said, you know what, let's come here and work here for a week, see what happens, right? If you're so smart, let's figure it out. And he did that, and he eventually landed a role over there, which was pretty pretty interesting, because I read a similar story. If you in the What Color Is Your Parachute book as well, the very initial, but those that goes back in the 1960s, 70s, where you can walk up to a construction site or a factory or anywhere else and say, get me to work for a week or so, right? And then you decide. But you can't do that right now because of the insurance, because of the laws, and everything. And here you go. It's like, he took the punt at that, and he ended up, finding a role. I'm actually have asked him to come on our LinkedIn Live once he finds some time to really share that perspective, that how did he kind of come to take that risk. And before he started to give advice to his friend about the company, what did he do the research and all those things? I think that is what I wanted to really unpack that. So I think that's what I'll find out. And one of our listeners also found work, Caroline. Yes, he and he's also promised me this will come on our show, as well, where he found a work in New South Wales, so regional New South Wales, and he's been listening to our work since 3-4 months. Came here from India, and the employer approached him through LinkedIn, and after a couple of rounds of interview, he ended up landing this job. So he moved to regional New South Wales right now. And he says that a lot of the things that what we spoke about gave him, new ways to think and act around improving the resume, around approaching people and everything else. So I'm pretty excited to
Yeah.
bring him once he's got, some time, in his schedule. And yeah, so who do we got? Amit, welcome. Anik Patel says, what is your view on upcoming freelancing world? So Anik, if you meant that what changes does the freelancing world or freelancing career will have in post COVID-19 era? I look, no, I've not worked as a freelancer, but I would think that there will be more interesting opportunity being available for freelancers, as a lot of companies are looking at a lot of, because what this has done is that this eliminated what we previously considered as a constraint around around their virtual working. This is that's one of the biggest barrier that this has eliminated, COVID-19. Now, previously it was considered, do we want to try, do we want to risk it out or not? Right now, it says, yeah, why not? We can take those risks and do that. So I think that is where I see that this has removed certain barriers. However, freelancers have also got tough competition right now, because there are many people who are looking at pivoting their skills into different area to freelance also. So it's a great time for people who want to outsource freelancing, but would be a tough time for freelancers to really market themselves. Especially on a crowded platform like LinkedIn, it's pretty difficult. I'll give you a quick tip, then I'll get KB's view on that. Is that, I remember one of the company that I wanted to outsource some work in India, and he said that, Nishant, can you, I don't mind you, what is that? I don't mind the cost that you are asking me to. I have no problem. But can we do one thing? I'm going to create my Upwork account. Can you really route it through there? Because it does two things. One is that it just gives me the thumbs up of my work, give a positive review of my work, straight away. So I think there are a lot of people are thinking creatively around gaining work, outside, but then also looking at switching over on Upwork with straight away a contract. Maybe?
Yes, well, I often hire people off Upwork, and what I have noticed is that 5 years ago, it used to be a lot of people in India, the Philippines, and it was a race to the bottom a lot of the time in terms of what the price is, what you would charge, or sorry, what people would offer their services for. But what I have noticed is now that there's a lot more from all over the world. So from Australia, the US, the UK, Europe, all over the world on Upwork. And the rates that people are actually charging are quite commensurate with Australian rates. So the idea that, I think that freelancing for people in more developed economies like Australia has definitely become a thing that people do, sometimes full-time, sometimes as a side hustle. If you're thinking about doing that, do go and have a look at what you're looking at on Upwork. But also keep in mind that people don't necessarily go for the lowest price in terms of, the lowest rate in terms of, you put a job up there and somebody bids on it. They don't. I don't do that. I really do look at the good, like something within my budget, but a really good match for what I'm actually looking for. So if you're thinking about doing that, present yourself professionally, get your portfolio up to date, respond professionally to the questions that people might ask when they're looking for people to do a task, just as you would for any other job. And, make sure that when you do get your first job that you get people to rate you properly and treat it really professionally, because it's a great way to earn some extra money alongside what you might be doing now, and to earn some develop some extra skills to actually change your career. And I did a version of that when I wanted to move from the corporate world. I did some freelance journalism while I was working full-time. So that was my side hustle, side gig for a little while, because I didn't feel particularly satisfied with the work that I was doing. So I think you can definitely use it to your advantage, and those platforms are set up for you to find, or for people to find you, or you to find people, much more so than LinkedIn is. LinkedIn's much more of a professional networking platform versus a freelancing platform. So it's here to stay. It's a great way to get some extra money. Maybe you can, transition your career. I know people that have done that as well, or even, if you need to do it full-time for a while, do it full-time. But I would actually also, just as much as I'm on Upwork, if I was thinking about freelancing, I would do all of the normal things that you would in terms of setting up a business, and that is to deeply understand the needs of the people that you're serving and trying to come up, say if it's a service-based thing, with a unique value proposition or a signature system and your own brand around that, because then you're not competing against a whole bunch of other people on price for the same service. You're creating an audience of people that are really keen to come to you and just you, basically. So that's another way to look at it as well. We've got a couple of other questions from Nilay, which is an interesting question. Hi Nesh and Carolyn, I am a double master's and looking for my field job in the first year, but due to no experience, it's hard to find a job. I've done a master's in international business and a master's in informational technology and a bachelor in electronics and communication, and I don't know why, but still no luck. That's a tough one. What do you think, Nesh?
Yeah, it is. I think I can feel, for you, Nila, and especially in COVID-19 times, graduating with double masters, in this time is something that will, that's probably not the right time. Having said that, I think no experience, when you say that, I think that would be the most differentiating factor here. I am just, assuming that you are an international student breaking into Australian employment market, where the experience counts far more than qualification. I'm not saying that qualification is not at all important, but they value experience, real world experience, far more. I would probably, suggest you to look at, gaining work experience through internship or work placement, because that will go far than rather than applying to jobs right now using the just on the basis of your double masters and a bachelor, unless you've got an experience overseas that you can really extract and really make sense of that in Australian context, then you might get away from gaining an internship or a work experience. But if you do not have any experience, I think it's best for you to. If I were you, in fact, I've given the same advice to a couple of other graduates in this week, is that you should really put a pause right now to your job search and really think about whether you can use your university career services to get work placement or volunteering experience, because that's going to be a very, very important factor in an employer giving you a chance. So that's what I would do. And if you want to send us a resume also, feel free to do that, and we'll give you a feedback on where you can improve on your resume. Nilay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea with Nilay, because I look at that and I go, I wonder whether people are really confused about what it is. Like, there's obviously something that, I know it's COVID, but you've got to be thinking post-COVID as well. This situation isn't going to last forever. So just to go, okay, it's COVID, it is hard, it's going to be slower. But I think if you want to send us your resume, Nilay, and maybe if you're happy, we can look at it live and tell you the first impression that we have from that, and whether that might be confusing about what it is that you're actually looking to do. because you've done your bachelor's in electronics and communication, and then international business, and masters in information technology. So I'm wondering what the positioning is for you, and whether people can see the connections between the two. I would look at that on the outset and go, I think maybe people are wondering what you can do, but also wondering why you haven't worked, and whether you're just overqualified and with no experience. Having said that, people do get jobs as international students. We had Archita on the show a couple of weeks ago, and go and check out that video on YouTube. We can also put that in the links as well, about what she did to actually find her first job as an international student, because she used LinkedIn a lot of networking on LinkedIn and getting information from her network. And one of the things that you could do, and this is just a thought bubble, is go and have a look at what the alumni are doing from your masters in Australia. See where they've ended up, because that might give you an indication of the types of jobs that you could actually target, and then look to see whether your resume is speaking to those sorts of jobs, or your LinkedIn profile is speaking to those sorts of jobs, and go and have a talk to those people, because that's what Archita did really well, and get some advice from them about what you should be aiming at, what skills are in demand, how they got their first job, and those sorts of conversations open up opportunities for you as well. But yeah, I think, like Nesh said, let's have a look at your resume. If you're happy to send it, you can have a quick look at it and see what that first message might be saying about you. What do you think, Nesh?
I agree. I think it's even though you're an international graduate or graduate itself, I think it's a hugely tough environment. I think what Archita did that made a significant difference was, I think from memory, I think she completed internship as well as part of that.
Yeah.
And I'll probably, we've actually got a guest coming up on next Friday. She's an international graduate. Her story is probably similar, but she started to volunteer in the first year of her studies. And she works with, even though she's an international student, she works with a big company right now as a data analyst. And it's a fascinating story, and how she really created a focus about gaining work experience, volunteering with industry and everything. That is what has made a significant difference. So Nilay, feel free to send us the resume, and if you connect with us, we'll send you that video that we are talking about, which might give you some other ideas to think about, to looking and finding your first gig in Australia. Nikos has got a really great comment around freelancing. I think response to the first to Anil's question. We need to shift thinking towards what is the value we as an individual can provide to companies, rather than what companies can do for us. If we can clearly articulate this and deliver with clear outcomes, then this goes a long way in securing our future. Absolutely, well said there, because I think this reminds me of, I think JFK said that don't ask what US can do for you, ask what you can do for the US, or you can do for the country. I think that is still, it resonates with the organization. The more that your focus shifts from you to them, it helps you to think in their language. It helps you to think about what could potentially be the challenges, what could potentially be their pain points. But what it requires is listening. What it requires is reading. What it requires is engaging with those questions, and asking those questions, reading a lot about it. I think that's what is really required. It just going back to the first story that I told you about the IT professional who landed a job by advising and then creating. I'm pretty sure that he would have had to put all his thinking hats in and think about what this company might be facing, and listening to intently, and then proposing some ideas to them. I think that's what is pretty much required. What you say, Katie?
Yeah, look, I think, there's also, particularly in small business, there's always stuff that they want to do that they never get to do, right? And so if you're putting on your thinking cap around time saving technology, for example, um, that, you might be having a conversation with somebody and unpacking that kind of, what is it that you'd love, what would you love to accelerate moving forward with your business? Let me go and research some options for you, particularly with startups. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, like there is always something that people don't have the resources to do because all the headspace. I reckon the biggest one is the headspace. Just thinking about it. In business, there's always a bunch of things that you want to do, but you've got to clear everything else that's going on to actually focus on getting that bit done. So that's that's a question that you could ask to kind of create an opportunity or to prove your value to that company. One of our colleagues, a guy by the name of Austin Belkak, talks to people about how to get a job without applying online. And his technique is to actually, once you've gone for an interview, is do something that demonstrates your sincerity and your value for that company. It's a bit of research that they need to have, or suggest a solution based on a problem that they have. And all of those sorts of things really do help position you. So have a think about doing that kind of stuff. And it is about, the company's not buying all of your skills, it's buying the set of the skills that you have that can solve that problem that they've got going on. And I think people tend to forget about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, if you think about it, I read a book called Guerrilla Marketing for Job Seekers. It's a fantastic book that came actually around the global financial crisis. And one of the strategies that they talked about is that you do so much research about the company. If you're in sales and going to see a company, for an interview, go with leads. That look, I've already spoken to 3 companies about your products or your services, and this is what they have to say. Now, even though you did not produce a remarkable insight about that, the act of you contacting 3 companies and talking about the products and services, I think that itself will floor them. Will say, hang on, imagine what you could do. But all these things has to come from sincerity. You can't. That's also has to be. To be there. That you got to put in the effort required to do something really outstanding. I'm pretty sure that there are creative ideas, and maybe I was thinking we should do a session just on creative ideas in job seeking. Resumes to creative approaches, because I've got some stories to tell, and I'm pretty sure you would also have. We should do a session just on that, because I think there is a moment that we can all go and say, what, this is not working. Let's park this aside. Let's have a bold thinking, like how they say in Utopia. Let's have blue sky, bold thinking.
Maybe not utopian type thinking.
Not utopian, yeah. Okay, let's.
So, Amit's got a question. Is it true that recruitment slows down during November and December in general, or due to COVID, might they continue with recruitment? One of my friends used to make a joke about Australia, which was from Melbourne Cup Day, which is the first Tuesday in November, to Australia Day, which is the 26th of January, nothing goes on. The whole country goes on holiday. It's not quite true. Recruitment does slow down during that time. I think it's not going to. I think the impact on the economy has been so tough that it will be slow. I can't see it suddenly people going, yes, we're free. I think businesses have, there's been a lot of slowdown in business and a lot of shutdown, a lot of disruption. It means that I think recruitment will pick up, but I don't think it will be. It will still be typically a slower period, I think, during that time. That's my guess. What do you think, Nish?
I think that's right. And some of the thing I watched, not watched, but I saw a post yesterday that they were looking for 20 talent acquisition professionals to kickstart the casual roles for Christmas. Because I think if you're just considering Victoria, rest of the country is still widely open. They still can go about and do their work. Victoria is the only one that we still have restrictions. I think our even mine and KB's views are also based in what's happening in Victoria. We are not really, tuned to seeing what's happening outside of Victoria as well. So if
Mm.
you look at the Australian perspective, also there are still retail, hospitality, tourism, all those things in small pockets are also improving. I watched an ABC news where they are saying that the regional places in some of these states are booming in terms of their, the occupancy in the hotels and restaurants and everything, because people are not able to go outside of the states and everything else. They might say, you know what, let's go and explore what we have got. Right.
Mm.
So I think and Christmas traditionally drives a lot of recruitment in hospitality, retail, sales and all those things. It does drive that. I've had clients who got jobs in during Christmas time also. Now, obviously, there are construction industry comes to a grinding halt or close to a grinding halt during that time. So construction related activities stops for a month or so. Factories also go on break, for a month or so. So there are some industries will do that. And obviously, I don't think so anybody experienced the COVID so far. So we know, I don't think so we know what would be the impact of that in next couple of months or during the Christmas time. But yeah, so it might be some recruitment might pick up, some may not. But I don't think so. We got really a concrete idea on that. Right. All right,
Mm.
let's move on. We got Hemangi. Welcome, Hemangi. Hi. When Imtiaz say when you lose motivation and get sick of job searching, what are your tips to get over this hopelessness and gain momentum? Look,
Okay, so
Imtiaz.
just Monday we've got a guest coming in, Peter. Peter's a client of mine and a good friend, and he's a counsellor and social worker. We're going to be talking about this very topic, from what it is to sort of lose your identity and how job loss impacts people, and then we will be talking about what to help, what can help move you forward from that. But I think just even talking about how it feels, because I think a lot of the time when you do lose your mojo, your momentum, you take it like that this is a unique experience and somehow you're to blame for that, that nobody else is experiencing that. So to understand that that's a very normal way to feel, I think is really important. So in Tez, do watch Monday, because Peter's really terrific at what he does, and he'll have some, I guess, some clinic, like we can talk anecdotes and what we know works, but he's talking from the clinical perspective. So, what does the clinical research show around how to move forward from those sorts of times as well? So, yeah. What do you think, Nish?
Now, I was just going to ask him to watch all of our episodes again to
Yes,
get
exactly.
momentum. But I do understand. I think and not to ignore the individual experiences that we have about job seeking. They are, it can get under our skin, and it's not a great place to be in. So I have been on those places, where I've lost jobs, and they are absolute. I would never, never want to experience those places before. I think one of the ways that may work, Imtiaz, is to really find someone that you can talk to, even a friend or a buddy, that this is what happened in the job search. Don't you don't have to go beyond the job search. Just keep your focused on that, rather than going beyond that. Like the way we did that yesterday, we just took a break. So take breaks, because you can only do certain things. You can only do certain things, and that's what I find. Sometimes I find energy from doing the work that I like to do. For example, all of you know my new found love for doodling. So I was doodling since yesterday 12 o'clock. I was doodling for certain ideas, and I didn't notice the time pass because I can draw my energy from that. If I can also talk about it, I'll put that TEDx talk over there. That I think KB I shared that with you about how being generalist
Mm.
helps, and it's a long bow, and I'll see if I can connect that as well. Because so there's a school of thought which says that try to acquire as many different skills as you can, because you don't know where you can use that. But ultimately you can also draw from different skills the energy, the thinking required, so that you can propel forward. I consider myself that I've studied engineering. I've gained engineering knowledge that gave me analytical skills, that gave me understanding of various aspects of how things function. Then I went into sales and marketing. Then I went into training, and now I'm doing career coaching, and I'm doing doodling right now, and I listen to a lot of music. But I think all of them really gave me tremendous experience when I think through a problem, and I find joy in that. I can synthesize different couple of ideas and say this might work, and I can present it. I don't know whether Imtiaz that's what you're looking for, but as KB mentioned, join us. Obviously, you will join us on Monday, but I think that will be fascinating for you
I
to
wanted
hear
to
there.
add something to that as well, Nish, because I think one of the things I reckon, I'll speak from my own experience because it might help you, Imtiaz, is, in lockdown in Melbourne during isolation, there's this sort of slowly deadening of your energy levels and your enthusiasm. And you don't realize how much your mind, your outlook is actually stopping you from doing things. So today, just to give you and it's an automatic thing. It just sort of gets shut down. I know with people that I've worked with that have found jobs, the people that have been the most successful are the people that have treated it like, on the Straight to Shortlist program, for example, treated it like a project. So every day I'm going to follow the guidance that I've been given, and I'm going to reach out to 5 people, and one person might say yes. And however they've felt, they've just sat down and they've done that task for that day. And what happens is people come back and say yes, and I think that momentum, that sort of some reinforcement, keeps their progress going, no matter how they feel. But if you do that kind of stuff in stop and start, I reckon that's where your mind plays tricks with you, and it takes much more energy to restart than it does to just build on the progress that you have, keeping going. You actually have to lift yourself up and put yourself back on that track. And the mindset thing is just always assuming that people aren't going to respond, or that it's going to be a bad conversation, or I'm going to get rejected. And it actually stops you from putting your absolute best foot forward. Just to give you a little example of that, and this I really think is around being isolated, and doing something on your own, and particularly relevant to this period. Today, there was a couple of people that I wanted to ask to come on the show, and I had the choice of either emailing them or ringing them. I'm like, oh, I hate ringing people, And then I stopped myself and I went, I'm assuming that this is going to be a bad conversation. That's the mindset. That's the kind of feeling of it's just not going to work. And that's what you have to kind of be really aware that you have. And that's why I think that kind of the people that succeed the most make sure that they've got this daily task to do around, like this daily objective to do, because it keeps the momentum going. And you particularly say from a networking point of view, you do get results if you do it in the right way. So that would be my suggestion. It may not work for everyone, but that's what I've observed in people that I've worked with, where we've been actively reaching out to people. It's the people that treat it and they do it a bit every day versus the stop and the start, because that's when your mindset goes into that downward death spiral type thing. So Imtiaz, I hope that helps, but do watch on Monday as well.
Excellent. Chavi Sharma said hi, Naisha. Hi, Chavi. Unfortunately, we could not meet when we came to New Delhi because she was going to be the host of the APCDA conference, which got cancelled. So when I come down to New Delhi next time, we'll have a chai together, Chavi. But good to see you on this platform. Neela, yeah, please send in your resume, and yeah, keep watching because I told somebody, KB, and that someone asked me about, oh, where do I find all those videos? And I said, look, go to YouTube. You find some of them, some of the videos, or download the podcast, whatever, 134 episodes at that time. And I said, look, if you listen to everyone, I don't think so. You need my help. She said, wow. I said, I promise you. If you do everything that we ask you to, I don't think so. You'll need my help. But there you go. Khushbu says, as a recruitment consultant, I would like to add my 2 cents here. Only apply to jobs that are relevant to you and ensure you highlight responsibilities and achievement in those areas. Absolutely. And that way you don't waste your time and your anybody's, plus you won't be demotivated wondering why applications aren't progressing. Absolutely spot on, Khushbu. And that's really, it's good that even our belief and our thinking also resonates with recruitment consultants as well. I think we had Gauri here earlier in the week, and I think she would have said the same thing as well when she says you guys are doing great work. Thank you very much, Khushbu. Appreciate your compliment. Now, Tanya has a question. For those skilled migrants who already have PR visa, whose travel plan to get to Australia got impacted, whether it will be advisable for them to move to Australia in October, November this year? No. If short answer is no, it's not advisable. For just a couple of reasons. One is that you are coming into during the COVID times, you're coming, you go to quarantine, and now quarantine is also, in what I understand, is the individual expense. Earlier, the state or the federal government used to sponsor that. It's no longer there. So that's an extra expense. And secondly, the jobs market is pretty tough. And considering that with lack of overseas experience, sorry, lack of local experience, which is another hurdle, I think it's going to be double whammy. I would probably suggest you to put that on hold, unless obviously it's an individual choice. But since you asked me this question, if I were you, I would put that on hold. At least early next year, unless you've got a big network of people who can start to really help you out the moment you arrive here. Something like that, then we may change, Tanya. But just on those 5 lines that you said, if they were the ones, then I would probably advise you to reconsider or look at maybe February, March or something. By that time, things will be much more clearer about the impact of pandemic, but also that the most of the states and everything will be much open. You can travel across as well. Like what I told earlier about one of our listeners who got a job, he spent 2 weeks here in quarantine, and then he spent 2 weeks in regional New South Wales before he could actually start work. But imagine the impact of that. It's not just about the financial impact, but you staying alone, and those impacts are you can't really put a price tag over them. KB?
Yeah, I'd just echo it's a very disrupted time, and just check the job market's slow. I think the job market will be slower because of COVID, just because of the economic impact. And they say, in any recovery, jobs are the last to sort of pick up. So, but I'd also check what the government's got, what little surprises and delights await you in terms of paying for the quarantine and so forth as well. So I think it's just going to be a crazy time for a while, to be honest. So yeah. Barlin, hi Barlin. Any advance on whether we're on a good number day or not before we answer your question? But no, just kidding. We'll have a look. Okay, so I recently applied for a job. Now I've received a questionnaire from a recruiter with 15 questions. What should I make of it? Is it a preliminary interview? I would say that your resume has done its work in that they've shortlisted you to a point of the next screening round, and that's exactly what those 15 questions are. So make sure that you answer them to the best of your ability, present them professionally, correct spelling and grammar, whatever. I'm not sure what the format is. I'm just assuming that it's written responses. Because looking at that, I don't think they'd get everybody to do 15 long. If they're long answers, they're just creating a rod for their own back with that. So I would treat it like a really positive sign, and that you've progressed to the next round, and make sure that you thoroughly answer the questions as asked and follow instructions. Because just another tip with that, so many times, like it is actually, we talk about people being interviewed, right? And the interview is also how you treat the small talk you make with the receptionist, how you book a time for yourself, how you respond in interview, how you respond in email. Every interaction around your interview is part of your interview. So with something like that, where you're given 15 questions, the way your responsiveness with that, the way that you answer the questions and the way that you follow instructions is all part of your interview. It's all part of the screening process. So I'd treat it very, very seriously. And well done. I forgot to say, well done.
Absolutely. I don't think so I've got anything extra to add, Balin, but it seems that the resume is working. So that's really good. Pretty good job. All right. We got Imtiaz says, sounds like a great idea. Creative ideas would be fantastic. Absolutely. We will do that. Karen has a comment that we always say in the West that business goes into holiday mode from Christmas to Australia Day. Traditionally, not a lot of decisions are made during the time, but some are. Don't give up. Absolutely. Karen, thank you for that comment.
Melbourne Cup Day, but that's where again, we're not having Christmas parties this year, are we really? So we might just be working all the way up.
Zoom party. Zoom. Yeah, that's right. Yes, Poonam, welcome. And what's the next one? It's a Pyle says local experience is key to landing a first job in IT. It depends. If I'm more diplomatically correct, then I say it depends. Not everybody requires it, but that's the hurdle that you will always get asked. It's how your overseas experience is relevant in Australian market. Also, is something that you got to look at. You got to look at whether you're presenting that experience in a best way possible or not. As I think Khushbu earlier said about responsibilities and achievement, are you really highlighting those high impact stuff or not? That also makes a big difference. But Payal, if you contact to me or Caroline separately, I've written a book on that. I'll flick you across, which says how do you really deal with those local experience questions, which are difficult to. Sometimes it causes a lot of difficulties, but they are not the most difficult questions to answer as well. All right, so we got a question from Jose. Balin, a comment. Yes, it's a common thing to screen candidate, and I don't know whether it's a normal thing pre-COVID. Would like to hear your thoughts as well on this. So I've seen, look, I've not seen 15 questions. Somebody gets, gets to respond to 15 questions, but I've also seen that sometimes they say, you know what, answer these specific questions, because they've got a selection criteria kind of a thing that they want you to write things up, and they create a candidate profile based on that, and then they send it to the client for them to look at that, because those questions are not behavioral. I'm pretty sure, Balin, those questions will be far technical questions around your technical competencies, not so much about the behavioral side of things. So it will be, I think there are some organizations or some recruiters have this practice, not everyone else. So I don't think so that this is unusual, in Australian context at all. Any thoughts on that, KB?
Yeah, no, before COVID, people were using all sorts of screening tools to, screen people out or screen people in. So, but maybe they just are looking for ways to make their decision easier from mass applications, and in using something like that might be a good way to do it. So it'd be interesting, Balan, if you get a chance, maybe not today because I think we're running out of time, but to let us know what those sorts of questions were, and maybe that will help other people that are watching this show as well, just to be aware of what could come up. If it's easy to put them in the chat box or whatever, just give people an indication of what people are asking. So Satwik says, advise of the STAR model. Are you looking for advice around that, or for us to tell people what that is? I'm not sure. But the STAR model, if you're looking for advice around that, is an acronym. So it stands for Situation, Task, Action and Result. And when people ask you a question in an interview, tell me about a time or give me an example, that's a great structure to respond to that. Also, you use the STAR approach in selection criteria, sometimes a mini version in a cover letter. Sometimes I kind of use it in a resume as well to talk about, to give people some context around a job, particularly in the more senior roles as well. So Satwik said, tell people. Okay, yeah. So sometimes, for example, Balan, I think you said the questions you're going to be asked are a mix of both technical as well as behavioural. So in those behavioural, you would use that STAR approach to answering those questions.
Absolutely. And I think we've done a show on behavioral questions as well separately, on that. It just requires practice with STAR questions. What we recommend is, go to Google and find out 20, 25 questions and really write down those responses, even bullet points, write it down and weave a story around it. Because if you've got some practice of weaving a story, a compelling argument, compelling story, you'd be able to do it, on your own feet when you really are, responding to a behavioral question that you haven't heard before. Mm-hmm. So I think you need to have at least some bank of knowledge so that you can build on that. Try to avoid fabricating it right there on the spot. Because it can go completely haywire, and people understand that, right? The other person understands whether you are really fabricating it or you are constructing it. So I think you've got to be very, very careful, around that. We'll take one more question, and then I know we are coming to an end. Payal says, what kind of questions first-time recruiter asking in the chat conversation? Is it technical or behavioral? Look, it could be a mix of them. Behavioral questions they will not touch on in the full conversation. So, Payal, if you're referring to a conversation where you applied for a role and after a couple of days or next day you get a call from the recruiter, say, hey, Payal, look, you applied for this IT role and we wanted to have a quick chat. Are you free right now? And Payal say, yeah, absolutely, please go ahead. Now, recruiter has got 10 minutes or so, for them to get a judgment of your skills, your abilities, your confidence, and everything. They are not going to throw behavioral questions. It's more around whether you know the role that you applied for, whether you sound enthusiastic, whether you've got the right skill or not, whether do you really know what you can bring, do you really know what kind of work you applied for or not, all those things that they are judging you. And I'm pretty sure that Gauri would have covered that question in the, I think on Wednesday when we had the we had her on about interview techniques from a recruiter perspective. So I would suggest, Pal, if you want to go and check that video out, because that was focused on interviews from recruiters' point of view. Maybe?
Yes. So first time recruitment interview in a chat conversation, you could expect both. Like they might say, "Do you have experience in ABC?" And you tell them what your experience is. They'd be checking off the key things. I think the absolute critical things they need for the role. And yeah, you can be asked behavioural questions in that first time chat conversation. Give me an example of a time, or could you provide an example of a time where you've done blah, blah, blah. Definitely. So be prepared for both. When a recruiter calls you and says this is a good time to talk, you could pretty much assume this is a good time to talk so I can screen you, is the request in that conversation. So do be prepared for any job that you've applied for where you've got a great shot, that you're actually going to be screened against that job description. And in terms of the types of behavioural questions that might come up, go back and have a look at the job description, because I think look at what the accountabilities are in that, and the big ones, the big priority ones, you can expect a behavioural question around that. And also, from that technical competency, but you can also expect those kind of assess your cultural fit, or those softer skill type behavioural questions as well, around leadership or managing challenges, or working in teams or leading teams, or all of those sorts of things as well. So go back to the job description and you can guess a lot of the nature, even though they might be phrased up slightly differently, but you'll get a sense of the nature of the types of questions that you might be asked.
Excellent. That brings us to another end of a parliamentary 0-hour proceedings on career care package, where we have taken an answer. We have not deflected questions. Sorry. If you still feel that there are more questions that you have, either you can send it to us or bring them on Friday, which is a public forum. You can ask questions as you have done it today. If you want us to review your resume, publicly, which we have done it for few occasions, which we think that has been of great value to those people who sent it. If you want us to do it, please send your resume across to us. If you want, we will not reveal your name, and we'll just keep the resume content, and we can give you some constructive feedback on that as well. And yeah, please keep watching our show. We've got 136th episode, and we like to continue and make, 200, 300, 400, whatever that is possible. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe our channel, so that, as I've always said, we want to retire on the money that we make on YouTube ads. So please help us to do that. And yeah, please continue to watch. Next week we've got at least 2-3 guests who have already confirmed. We are still working on few others. We can't tell you exactly. Even for those days, if you don't have a guest, we'll probably go and ask James Bond to come and talk about the new movie that he's coming along with. But we'll still bring a lot of value to your LinkedIn and to your career. So until we see you on Monday, please look after yourself and your family. And if you're in Victoria, I know there's a big day coming up on Sunday where we find out what restrictions will be eased. But please make sure that you continue to put on masks and maintain social distancing. Until then, please have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye for now, everyone.